This is CBC Compass.
This is Friday, February 28th. Here's what's happening now on Prince Edward Island. Too little, too late. The PEI government's hoping to crack down on so-called rent-evictions with new legislation, but one group of renters says it'll do them no good. They're being forced out of their apartments with little hope of getting back in. The Charlottetown Airport's expecting more passengers this summer, but is there enough space to handle them all? We'll hear what the airport has planned to deal with the boost in business. Plus, why PEI's opposition leader says he plans to change his tone and to be more forceful. He says some islanders have the wrong impression that his party's too cozy with the governing PCs. Well, good evening. Thanks for joining us here on Compass. I'm Steve Bruce. Louise is away tonight. And we begin tonight with a group of people looking for a new place to live. They're facing what's become known as rent-eviction. That's when landlords evict a tenant for repairs or renovations. Well, the province is proposing changes to deal with the issue. The people in our next story say those changes are coming too late. Nicole Williams has her story.
The 9 people living here at 24 Water Street were given an eviction notice just over a week ago. It says they need to be out of their apartments by the end of April because of work that's being done to the building. The letter outlines the need to install a sprinkler system and a fire escape. It means drilling holes inside the units, and the property manager says tests have shown there's asbestos inside the walls, meaning no one can be in there while work is ongoing. But several of the tenants say even though they've been given the required notice, they wish they had more time. Marlene Gallant has lived here for 17 years.
It's really hard. I've been looking around and there's nothing available out there. It's really hard to find something in our price range. We got good rent here. We got terrific tenants. I've been through 4 landlords and now we have to leave.
I was pretty shocked and pretty full of anxiety. The big question is, where am I going to live? Because I'm on a disability pension at the moment. There's not much out there that I can afford, and there's not very much time to find something.
The notice came just a day before government announced proposed changes to the laws around rentals. With the changes, landlords would need to give 6 months notice for this kind of eviction. Right now, it's just 60 days. Tenants would also be offered the first chance to move back in once the unit reopens. These renters say they haven't been given that choice.
We've asked to stay, to return to the units after. And I mean, whatever rent increase IRAC gives them, gives them the rent increase, that's fine. But they won't even give us the chance to come back into the unit.
I'm also just kind of frustrated, not only for myself, because I feel like I am in a financial situation where I could lend somewhere, but there's a lot of people in this building that I don't know where they're going to go.
In a statement, the property manager says the landlord is in regular communication with the Island Regulatory and Appeals Commission to ensure we are in compliance with the Residential Tenancies Act. It also reads, we very much empathize with the tenants at 24 Water Street. We have provided more than the mandatory notification period and have been working to help find existing tenants other apartments or accommodation arrangements. We will continue to do so and assist in any way possible. Now, the property manager didn't say exactly when work on the building would begin, if there would be rent increases to the units, or if the current tenants would get the chance to move back in. But the renters here say they plan to fight the eviction by submitting an appeal to IRAC. Nicole Williams, CBC News, Charlottetown.
All right, Jay here with a first look at weather and a decidedly nicer evening than we saw last night. Maybe not all the snow that some expected, but still pretty messy.
No, to be honest, my outlook for potential accumulation was honestly a bust. And that was because we saw an earlier switch to that icy precipitation than anticipated by a few hours. So when you get more freezing rain and ice pellets, you see less of that snow. stacking up on the ground. All right, let's take a look at, it was nice hanging out with you there, by the way, Steve. All right, let's take a look at our amounts across the island from that storm last night. And this is through to 8 a.m. this morning, but most of it falling by about midnight at the latest. And as you can see, we did see amounts near 15 centimeters up west of snow and ice pellet accumulation, but a far cry from that 7 to 15 centimeters I was calling for more central and eastern areas. Just a trace amount in Charlottetown, 3 centimeters in Morel. You can see the heaviest amounts were certainly up west, but more freezing rain did fall over eastern PEI. That meant last night's road conditions were treacherous, especially when you add in winds from 60 to over 80, near 90 kilometers per hour. You can see that peak wind gust of 85 clocked at Charlottetown Airport. So there's the storm totals, less in terms of what you had to shovel, but it was an icy and windy mess nonetheless for your Thursday evening. Winds have calmed down, still brisk, and we still are looking at the potential for a few flurries, particularly over western areas this evening. May see a centimeter or two of accumulation at most, and they'll be very isolated in nature, and that risk will wind down through the overnight hours tonight with just a few clouds in the forecast. As we roll this ahead, this is future satellite and radar, a forecast model I'm showing you here. Pretty sunny to start your Saturday morning. As we get into the afternoon, we'll start to see some clouds developing and some late day flurry activity ahead of some steadier snow Saturday night into Sunday. Could be a significant amount of snow. I'll have more on that coming up in just a few minutes with your full forecast. Here's a quick look at the next 24 hours. Pretty nice conditions with temperatures around the freezing mark tomorrow afternoon. We get into the flurries tomorrow evening. Sunday could be snowy. I'll have the details on that just ahead. Steve?
All right, thanks, Jay. The Charlottetown Airport has had a string of good news announcements this year. There's new flights from WestJet, Swoop, and Flair Airlines, and Air Canada will use bigger planes for its flights. But more passengers means more pressure on an already busy building. Wayne Thibodeau has more tonight on just what the airport plans to do about it.
Steve, 3 years ago, more than 60,000 passengers came through this airport during the peak summer season of July and August. This year, more than 90,000 passengers may come through the doors thanks to all those flights you were talking about. That means the Charlottetown Airport Authority is looking at fast-tracking its plans for expansion. Whether flying in or out, the Airport Authority wants to make the experience easier. It's already started designing an expansion to the terminal building, including to the departure area. That would allow for more check-in counters, improve the security screening process, and expand the departure lounge.
We know that we've got some capacity constraints in the terminal today. These new airlines and extra seats are not going to help those constraints, and so we know we need to act fairly fast, but at this point in time we don't know exactly when that will be.
Newson says it's still too early to discuss the sheer size of the project or how much it will cost. He'd like to see the work done before the summer of 2021. Those in the tourism industry say the expansion is badly needed.
With the additional seats capacity coming in from the various airlines, again, you have to have the infrastructure to support that. So I think with the continued growth, I believe that that's going to be very important for us to continue to grow our visitation in PEI.
The airport is planning some short-term changes to help get through this summer. Kiosks will be relocated, check-in windows will be shared, and the airport will use the International Arrivals Gate for domestic flights. And Steve, the Airport Authority recently surveyed travelers to see what else they could do to improve the travel experience here at the Charlottetown Airport. Most surveyed said they'd like to see boarding bridges so they don't have to go outside when they get off the plane going into the terminal building, and covered walkways between the parking lot and the building. Newson says they are not currently planning those expansions, but they are on his radar.
All right, thanks, Wayne. That's Wayne Thibodeau at the airport for us tonight. PEI's chief public health officer now says it's likely the island will see cases of coronavirus, that it's just a matter of when. And Dr. Heather Morrison says that has health officials here in prep mode. She says, like all provinces, PEI is taking stock of its hospital staffing, protective gear, and medical supplies. That's to ensure the island is ready to treat patients and contain the spread of the virus.
We have work to do, certainly with our hospitals, to continue to be prepared. We're very fortunate to live in PEI in Canada, where we have a strong public health system and a good health system that is always wanting to be prepared from an infection prevention control point of view, but it's a chance for us to look more closely at do we have the accessibility and availability to manage an increase in patients who are sick.
Meantime, there was a long-awaited reunion for a family split up by coronavirus. A family we have followed through this crisis, mom and daughter stuck in Wuhan, China. Now, the dad operates a business in Montague and was waiting and worrying in BC. While Monty Gisborne and his wife, Daniela Lau, were reunited along with their 9-year-old daughter. The mother and daughter were visiting relatives for the Lunar New Year when the coronavirus outbreak hit. The entire city was quarantined. They were able to get on a Canadian government chartered flight, but ended up quarantined again for 2 weeks in Trenton, Ontario.
Imagine if everything just suddenly happened, and when we are in Wuhan, I don't know what time I can come back Canada. But when we got the phone call say we can come back Canada, but I still do worry about my parents and many friends in Wuhan now.
The family is thanking all the people who helped get them back together in Canada. Some members of the Public Service Alliance of Canada held a sit-in today at Cardigan MP Lawrence Macaulay's office in Montague. It is the 4th anniversary of the introduction of the Phoenix pay system. Some members say they have been under a lot of stress because of problems getting their pay. The sit-in was designed to draw attention to the hardships many employees are facing.
We definitely need to have more staff working with the Phoenix system so that we can hopefully prevent future issues. We also want some fair compensation for our members. They've been dealing with this debacle, shall I say, Phoenix system for the last 4 years. They've gone through huge financial hardships.
This is the second time the union has visited their MP urging action on the Phoenix system. Macaulay is in meetings in Washington, but did call in. He told them he plans to address their concerns with the minister responsible. Well, we're just over a month away now from the spring sitting of the legislature, and the official opposition says we can expect a change in tone. The Green Party says it will be more aggressive in its efforts to hold government to account. Kerry Campbell explains why.
In last year's election, both the Green and PC leaders campaigned on a pledge to do politics differently. And while the Premier has spoken glowingly about collaboration between the parties, the Greens say what they've been hearing is they've been too close to government to hold government to account.
And somehow people have got the impression that we're very cozy with the governing party and that we're not holding them to account. But actually, that has never been the case.
Although there has been more hugging than in other legislatures. Bevan Baker says his party is improving things for Islanders, passing its own legislation, working with the PCs to improve government bills. But there's the other part of the job.
Re-emphasize that second part of our job here, that we have to improve things, but we also have to oppose and hold government to account, and that we will be doing that through some perhaps more vigorous opposition.
What will that look like? Maybe like this blog post taking aim at Transportation Minister Stephen Myers over spending in his department and some of his tweets. Myers' response on Twitter: "It's the exact same politics I played in opposition. It isn't politics done different." The Premier says civility and collaboration in island politics has made PEI an example for others.
We are the envy of the rest of Canada and how we've conducted ourselves here in very difficult times, in very difficult political times across the globe. And I would hate to think that we would move away from that, but at the same time, the opposition parties have a job to do. I respect the job they do.
Bevan Baker says civility can exist alongside a more challenging tone from the opposition. So can the occasional hug. The challenge for his party: deliver on its commitment to do politics differently, while at the same time fulfilling the age-old role of the official opposition, holding government to account. The Greens looking to find a different balance between those two. Kerry Campbell, CBC News, Charlottetown.
The PEI Fishermen's Association has some questions for the federal government over new restrictions to protect endangered right whales. Among the new rules, Transport Canada has identified a sensitive area off Western PEI. Boats won't be allowed in that area unless deemed necessary. The association wants clarity on just what that means and where the boundary lines are.
The coordinates won't actually be set until after the whales arrive. So we don't actually know the exact location of that box until the whales are here and aggregating. So there's still some confusion around that because Transport sets the management measure. We don't know if fishing is going to be allowed in there or not. So these kind of things need to be figured out and talked to with DFO and Transport Canada.
The PEIFA says the island's lobster grounds are not in the restricted zone, but fishermen who have licenses for other species could be affected. Much more still to come on Compass tonight before 7 o'clock. We will hear more from PEI's Chief Public Health Officer about just how hospitals here are preparing for coronavirus and what islanders can do now to limit the risk. We'll also head to Guangzhou, China to meet a mother who grew up here. She's from PEI. She'll tell us about all the challenges she and her family are facing as that country continues to deal with the outbreak. And we all want to buy home appliances that are going to last, so which brand name should we trust? Well, our marketplace team went in search of the answer. We'll have the results a little later. And a much calmer evening out there on PEI. Jay's back with the full weather forecast. That's right after the break. Stick around. Okay, Jay here now with the full forecast. And February 29th tomorrow, surely some leap year babies hoping for a nice day to celebrate a rare birthday.
Yes, I always loved the leap year birthday. Imagine being, 4 years old on paper and, older when we count the fact this only happens every 4 years.
I'd be about 8.5 if I was a leap year baby.
8, I like that you worked that out. And by the way, cool little statistic for you, Steve. This is the longest February in about 4 years. So very cool.
There you go.
To experience that. All right, let's take a look.
Looking?
Happy leap year birthday to all the leap year babies. All right, here's a look at. We do have the potential for some snow on Sunday. Unfortunately, with this next approaching storm system, there's a deviation in terms of the different forecast models that I look at on the exact track. Not that far apart, but enough of an easterly versus westerly direction of this storm that could result in less snow if it moves to the east and a bit more snow if it moves to the west. We're not talking about huge numbers for snowfall here, but it is leaving me with quite a range. So at the moment, here's a quick outlook on what you can expect. This will be beginning Saturday evening and most of it falling through Sunday as steady, light to moderate snow before tapering off as flurries into Monday morning. So this will not be heavy snow at any time, but it will begin to add up and we could see those numbers up around 15 or more centimeters if this storm tracks a little bit further to the west and closer to us here on PEI. So PEI at the moment, starting Saturday night through into early Monday morning between 5 to 15 centimeters. There is the possibility we could see amounts higher, though, and I will have an update for you if I see a more westerly push on that track tomorrow through my Facebook and my Twitter feeds as well. So you can follow me on social media. I'll put in a couple of hours looking at the updates tomorrow morning and make sure that I get that out to you so you know what to expect for your Sunday. A lot of folks with hockey tournaments and games. I know at the rink times myself through Ringette with my daughter. You expect nice travel conditions, and Sunday may be a little messy. All right, there's a look at our temperatures across the Maritimes this hour. -2 is where that temperature sits as we look to Charlottetown Airport, and between -2 and -3 across the island. Winds, they have eased. I meant to show you the sustained winds. The gusts aren't strong enough to actually show you any on the map, but we are seeing those winds generally around or below 40 km, between 15 to 25 at the moment. A couple of scattered flurries that may amount to a centimeter or two over some areas up west tonight before that clears through the overnight hours. Area of low pressure moves off to our north. We'll see a clearing trend into your Saturday morning, fair amount of sunshine. We'll see those clouds gradually building through the afternoon. And then as we get into the evening, some flurries will start to work in. And then really it's Saturday night into Sunday morning that we start to see some steadier snow being wrapped in. If this storm system tracks a little further to the west, we get more snow. If it stays a little further to the east, it would be less snow. So 5 to 15 centimeters depending on the track. And we could see amounts to 20 if it pushes a little further west than anticipated. So do check my social media pages tomorrow for an update on that track. But you can expect some light to moderate snow on Sunday that could make roads a little messy, and winds will be brisk from this system as well. So for exposed areas, there may be some blowing snow at times, could reduce visibility. So the overnight hours tonight, the flurries will taper off. We'll see just a few clouds over western PEI, temperatures between -6 and -9. Afternoon temperatures tomorrow up around or near the freezing mark, between +1 and -2 will be the range, with increasing cloud cover gradually through the afternoon. So still pretty sunny conditions for much of the day. Similar story for central and eastern parts of the island. We'll start to see those clouds filling in late afternoon, early evening. We could start to see those flakes beginning to fall. It's really Saturday night and more so Sunday that we start to get into that steadier snow. So late day snow, Sunday, 5 to just over 15 centimeters possible. We'll keep an eye on that with an update tomorrow through social media. And then morning flurries, but clearing out on Monday ahead of some milder weather as we look into much of next week. Here's a quick look now at your national temperatures before we take a look at our photo of the day. This one coming to Mike Leclerc. Couple of ducks out on patrol. That's a great shot. Thank you so much, Mike, for sending that in. Get us your photos. We love showing them off. Best way to do that by email, compass@cbc.ca.
Those duck shots always fit the bill, I tell you. We'll see you again before the end of the show. And just ahead here on Compass, health officials say PEI will likely see cases of coronavirus. It's really just a matter of when. So what's being done to get ready? We'll put that question and others to the island's chief public health officer right after the break.
I'm Mitch Cormier. Monday on Island Morning, they're the business names that you've grown up with if you live in Charlottetown. But do you know the history of some of those businesses? There's a new exhibit called Down to Business that does just that. We'll tell you about it on the next Island Morning.
The World Health Organization issued a new warning today about coronavirus and raised its level of alarm. There are also 2 more patients here in Canada, including the first presumptive case in Quebec.
And we have now increased our assessment of the risk of spread and the risk of impact of COVID-19 to very high at global level.
The virus is now in nearly 60 countries. Nigeria, Mexico, Lithuania, Belarus, the Netherlands, and New Zealand all announced their first cases today. Now, that said, China reported its lowest number of new cases in a 24-hour period. Much of the spread around the world now is being traced back to outbreak zones in Italy and Iran. The WHO says nations must prepare for further spread now and adopt aggressive containment measures before it's too late to prevent a pandemic. While the WHO is calling on countries to prepare, their capacities to do so varies widely. And it's not just developing nations that are struggling. Here's health reporter Christine Birak. She'll take a look at what factors are at play and who is most vulnerable.
No one knows exactly how this coronavirus might take off in different nations around the globe, but experts say there are indicators.
When we look at what countries are most vulnerable, it's clear that it's those countries that have the weaker public health systems in place.
To his point, compare what's happening in Singapore versus Iran. Despite its ties and close proximity to China, Singapore is reporting far fewer cases than Iran. Experts say the strength of Singapore's healthcare system has allowed it to react quickly. Containing a virus requires early detection, isolation and treatment of sick patients, and tracing contacts who may also be infected.
So there's several countries in Africa that don't have that ability to test. There may be cases already, and if you don't have that ability to test, it becomes really hard to respond to it.
The World Health Organization has identified 13 vulnerable African countries, including the Democratic Republic of Congo and Algeria. Airports on the continent are screening passengers and lab tests are arriving. But some of those nations are dealing with Ebola, measles, and other outbreaks. An influx of COVID-19 patients, especially severe cases, could overwhelm hospitals. But experts say the SARS virus did not take hold in Africa, and COVID-19 may not either.
We've seen a few cases here and there, but we're not seeing the widespread transmission that I think we were all concerned would happen.
There's also cautious optimism about South America. Scientists don't know if warmer climates play a role, but countries with younger populations will likely see fewer illnesses. Data so far shows COVID-19 is hitting people over 60 hard, and that could take a toll on developed countries.
The U.S. right now, I think, is our big concern. And the primary reason why I say that is the debate about how they're able to do diagnostic testing at this point.
Unlike here in Canada, the U.S. has not been widely testing sick patients. Some fear it's missing infected COVID-19 patients and might not be able to contain the virus.
Ultimately, no one knows how this outbreak will evolve. With a vaccine at least a year away and no proven antivirals yet, citizens and public healthcare systems worldwide should be prepared for the worst. Christine Birak, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, preparations are happening here on PEI as well. Today, the island's chief health officer spoke with the media. So here's my conversation with Dr. Heather Morrison. As we've seen the number of affected countries increase, as you've seen the number of cases around the world increase, how much does that increase the likelihood that we will see cases here on PEI?
Well, I think you're right. Is we see more countries affected, more numbers in Canada. That will it certainly increases my thought that we will see more cases in the country and possibly here in Prince Edward Island.
Is it an if or a when scenario?
I think it's probably when we see a case here, but the whole country is still focused on, if we can quickly identify cases and try to prevent further spread. I think that's really important. But at the same time, we need to start thinking about being prepared if we start to see a higher number of cases.
How much have you seen the level of concern from the public increase here in terms of the number of calls coming into your office, the number of people showing up at the hospital?
I definitely think there's been a concern all the way along, but it's increased a little bit more as we have March break approaching and people have travel plans, but also as they hear the cases increasing in different countries and the numbers increasing outside of mainland China and Hubei province.
You mentioned March break, and I know travel agents are saying they're getting calls, people wondering whether they should be traveling anywhere right now given the scenario with coronavirus. What's your message?
Well, I think it's normal to ask that kind of question too. A lot of people want to escape from PEI during March break, but I think it's important to look at where you're going and to check the affected country list where they are having outbreaks of COVID-19, and that can change. It's also important to think about where you're going. Are you going to be able to access the health care you need and have the insurance to do so? But also, if an outbreak starts there, what impact will that have on your return to Canada, and what impact it could have if you get sick when you return?
How prepared are our hospitals here on PEI in the event that we did see cases here and the goal was to obviously contain that outbreak?
Absolutely. So, I mean, one of the things about this virus is the majority of people who are getting the virus, almost 85%, have very mild symptoms. So it's a smaller proportion of people who would actually be having more significant symptoms. I think we have work to do, certainly with our hospitals, to continue to be prepared. We're very fortunate to live in PEI and in Canada, where we have a strong public health system and a good health system that is always wanting to be prepared from an infection prevention control point of view, but it's a chance for us to look more closely at do we have the accessibility and availability to manage an increase in patients who are sick. And we'll continue to work with Health PEI going forward.
Can you be specific? What sort of preps need to happen? I mean, do we have enough of the right equipment, protective equipment for healthcare workers? Do we have enough workers?
Well, I think the question around personal protective equipment, or PPE, is a discussion that we're having right across the country, and wanting to make sure there's enough supply of personal protective equipment for all provinces and territories. And so we've been looking at our stock of supplies here for personal protective equipment, trying to make sure we have enough to manage our respiratory influenza season, and then what happens if we get more cases as well.
How about for schools, for workplaces? Is there anything that they should be doing to prepare?
Well, I think we've continued to try to emphasize the messages around making sure really good hand washing. And I know there have been different people on CBC here as well talking about what good hand washing means. Coughing into the crook of your elbow and good cough etiquette, and also staying at home when you're sick. I mean, I think those are important messages for schools, workplaces in general in the community, to limit spread of any respiratory illness, including COVID-19. So I think those are important messages. There's some national guidance coming out in terms of managing COVID-19, not only in the community setting, but also in schools and daycares as well. So those are really good guidance documents that are becoming available nationally and that we are linking to as well.
This is obviously all over the news, a lot of people talking about coronavirus. What would you say to Islanders who are really worried about this at this stage?
Well, I can certainly understand why people would be worried. It's a new virus. There's a lot of increasing number of cases, more countries affected. I think I would say that we're living in a good place that has a good, strong health system, and a country that has a public health infrastructure, and that we're doing all the right things to be ready to identify a case, to try to prevent further spread, and limit that spread, and treat you if you need it.
All right, I appreciate the time.
Great, thank you.
Of course, the coronavirus outbreak started in China in early January, and since that time, Kayla Hall has faced her share of challenges. Kayla grew up here on PEI, but she now lives in Guangzhou, China, near Hong Kong, along with her husband and 10-month-old baby. And Kayla joins me now. So Kayla, can you just sum it up for me, what life has been like for you and your family these past several weeks?
So we spend every day inside, and it's nice that we're all together here. We go out once every couple of days to try and get some fresh food and some fresh vegetables, especially for Evie. When we go outside, there are a lot of strict preventive measures in place that they take our temperature, they do a lot of tracking with our movements, and making it mandatory for everyone to wear a mask. So our day-to-day life hasn't changed all that much, except for the fact that we're home now and we can't work.
Yeah, and talk to me about that. I know that's one of the big obstacles that you have been facing, that neither you or your husband has been able to work. Why not?
My husband works in dentistry, so working with people's mouths is especially dangerous with a virus that spreads through droplet infections. So his work probably won't be able to start for a very long time. There's still no end in sight for when we could ever go back to work.
And how about for you personally? I know you were on maternity leave, but you were hoping to be back at work by now?
I had a job lined up to begin the 1st of February. And in order to make that happen, my visa would have had to been processed in January. And the visa offices were closed, and I wasn't able to get a work visa on time. And the company that I was supposed to start working at also couldn't open because of the virus. So we have been without income for a couple of months now, living off of our savings, and they started to run out without really knowing when we could go back to work. It was kind of becoming a little bit of a worry for our family.
Yeah, how stressful has it been for you without that money coming in?
It has been quite stressful. I haven't really been able to go to the bank to kind of keep track of our savings. So that was maybe a bit of a shock to me when I realized just how bad things had gotten for our finances. And that's what kind of pushed me to start a GoFundMe page for myself and for our family. And since then, we have been able to get enough money to get us through the next couple of months for rent, food, baby supplies, and things like that.
How much has that meant to you, seeing that kind of support to be able to raise that much money through GoFundMe?
It was just incredible. I'm just so overwhelmed by the love and support from all of our friends and family back home. It really meant so much to us that they were able to do that for us.
And your financial issues aside, just the fact that you're living in China that's been dealing with this outbreak, how concerning has coronavirus been for you and your family?
That's always been in the back of my mind, especially for my baby being so young. Her immune system isn't quite developed enough yet. And my husband is also at a higher risk because he has been diagnosed with COPD. So the symptoms would be a lot more severe for him if he were to contract the illness.
And how has this all changed your future plans and what you do from here?
So we weren't planning to move back to Canada for another couple of years, but this virus has kind of pushed things along, and after a lot of discussions with our family, we're going to try to move back in May.
Well, listen, hopefully we will see you back here on PEI this spring. I know it's early morning for you, so thanks for taking the time with us, and all the best.
No problem. Thank you so much.
Well, UPEI's music department is just a week away now from its performance of Mozart's The Magic Flute. A few members of the show join Jay with all the details. We'll have that coming up here on Compass. Well, I think it's fairly common knowledge that Jay actually tried to get into music school in university, but he auditioned with Hot Cross Buns on the recorder, which didn't quite cut it. But he caught up with a group of students earlier today who were more successful. Just have a look at this.
Well, I'm here with Tara, Alex, Ian, and Nick from UPEI's music department, and you guys have been working for a few months now on this one. You got a big performance coming up. Tell me a bit about what you guys have been working on.
Yeah, so we're going to be performing Mozart's The Magic Flute. We've been working on it since September, so it's been a long time coming, and we're really excited to put on the show.
Okay, so a lot of work has gone into this, and you will all be part of this production. All singing is part of this production, right?
We are, yes. It includes many music students, right from first year to fourth and fifth year as well.
And you guys are all different years, right?
We are, yeah.
All right, so it's great to see a production like this bringing you guys together as a team and getting a chance to perform for what could be a pretty large audience as well. So let's talk about the date, the place, the time that this will be taking place.
Yeah, so it's going to be on March 6th and 7th at 7:30 p.m. and it's in the UPEI Music Department Steel Recital Hall.
Okay, so Steel Recital Hall, and March 6th and 7th, that would be next week, right?
Yeah, next Friday and Saturday.
Next Friday and Saturday. And this is, you'd be selling a lot of tickets, 150 seats in this venue, right?
That's correct.
And standing room?
Then standing room as well.
All right, and if you guys have a lot of experience with these types of performances, or maybe a little bit nervous heading into this one?
I think that this is almost everybody in the cast's first opera that we're doing, so it's definitely a lot of learning curves and has been a wonderful experience to prepare.
Okay, and as for tickets, how much are they going to cost?
They're $10 for students and $15 for adults.
Okay, so $10 for students, $15 for adults. This is open to the general public, and if I wanted to get those tickets, a couple of ways I can do that, right, Nick?
Yeah, for sure. You can call the department at 566-0507, and you can also buy them online at brownpapertickets.com.
Brownpapertickets.com. Easy to remember, and if you want to get those tickets, again, $10 for students, $15 for the general public if you'd like to come check it out. And if you want to find out more about what these students are doing from UPEI's music department, you guys are on Facebook as well, right?
We are, yes, UPEI Music Department.
All right, UPEI Music Department on Facebook or brownpapertickets.com to get those tickets for next Friday and Saturday's big performance of Mozart's The Magic Flute.
Should be a great performance, and you never know, they might let you do a little recorder solo. We'll see. And if you'd like to be on our community segment, you can get in touch with us here at CBC PEI. You can call us at 629-6480 or email compass@cbc.ca. Well, there are no breakthroughs, but nor has anyone stormed out of a meeting of hereditary Wet'suwet'en chiefs and senior ministers from BC and Ottawa. They met for a few hours late yesterday and began a full day of talks today. Nathan Cullen was once the NDP MP representing the area, and now he's acting as intermediary for the BC government.
We're not anywhere there yet, but we're certainly in the right direction. So I remain cautiously optimistic for what it is that we're trying to engage in. And I should say that none of this is obviously easy.
We've got lots of work to do.
That last voice is Crown Indigenous Relations Minister Carolyn Bennett. She and her BC counterpart are both talking and listening to the chief's concerns. Cullen says, though, the chief's opposition to the Coastal GasLink pipeline project has sparked nationwide protests. These talks are about the Wet'suwet'en. The meeting is supposed to wrap up today because the chiefs are attending a funeral this weekend. There are a few key dates coming up for candidates chasing the Democratic nomination for president. Next week's Super Tuesday is the big one, but the South Carolina primary tomorrow is shaping up to be do or die, at least for former Vice President Joe Biden. CBC's Katie Simpson has more.
Former Vice President Joe Biden is in desperate need of a breakthrough here in South Carolina. And there are hundreds of people expected for a rally today where he's really hoping he can galvanize support. So far, his performance in the Democratic nomination race has been quite sluggish, but he's been very publicly saying that he's hoping to have a breakthrough here. I'm joined now by Leo Fraser. You're here to support Joe Biden. Tell me why you're here today.
He brings to me a sense of civility and hopefully back to the political climate, all right? And I feel this nation need a calmness. We need a calmness effect. We need someone, a proven leader. And to me, he has demonstrated proven leadership in the past, working with President Obama.
Joe Biden has consistently led here in the polls in South Carolina. Why do you think he is so popular?
He's been the same person since I've been following politics. He's been consistent. He's demonstrated that a sense of trustworthiness. And that's what I think people are looking for, someone that they really feel like know them.
Are there any other candidates in the Democratic field that you feel that same sense of trust with?
Steyer, I feel, once again, he seems to be, I say, grounded in the values of people.
All right, well, thank you very much for your time today, Leo. And so Joe Biden's campaign has put a lot publicly in the South Carolina vote. And it's the last one. It's the last primary before the Super Tuesday contest, before 14 different states and one territory weigh in. If Joe Biden doesn't get a rebound here, it's going to be very difficult for him to point to any evidence of success so far in this campaign to demonstrate to voters that he is the person that can actually attract a broad coalition of voters to be the person to go on the ticket and try and take on Donald Trump in the fall. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Sumter, South Carolina.
Well, most of us have surely had a major appliance breakdown. In fact, a new survey conducted for CBC Marketplace says only about a third of us are satisfied by how the manufacturer responded when things went wrong. David Common took a closer look at how long appliances are lasting and how hard it is to find parts when they break.
You're shopping again.
This is the expense that I do not want to get to.
Mehul Dalakia is shopping for a fridge once again. His died after just 6 years, and he couldn't get the part to fix it anywhere.
It is bad.
Nearly 1 in 3 Canadians we surveyed say they've had an appliance break when it was less than 5 years old, though the association representing appliance makers sees things differently.
Our data shows, and it's been relatively unchanged over the past 2 decades, that the average lifespan is about 10 years for appliances.
Do you believe that? No. They don't last. They're not as good.
They don't last, no.
One big reason Canadians told us is how hard it is to find parts, even for relatively new machines. In Europe, it's a very different story.
And then over here?
Here, lifespan testing is underway, and by next year, laws will require manufacturers to make replacement parts readily available.
The list of spare parts, they have to be available for like 10 years, and then they are supposed to be delivered within 15 working days after a request.
These laws would give consumers more power to repair their appliances rather than buy new when they break. Consumer advocates like Nathan Proctor are fighting to bring that to North America.
If you want products that last longer, that are better for the environment, that cost less to maintain, you should want Right to Repair.
But the big brands are pushing back.
We are very concerned about the safety implications.
By not backing some form of right to repair, it seems like consumers are being forced to buy new.
Right, so we never want to deny anyone a choice.
Mehul feels like his choice was taken away. He wishes Right to Repair existed here. Instead, he's got a new fridge and a lighter wallet. David Commons, CBC News, Brampton.
Now, Marketplace also commissioned a survey to understand which brands Canadians say break down the most. You can watch it all tonight at 8 o'clock on CBC Television and anytime on CBC Gem. Well, another rough day on the markets with coronavirus fears blamed for much of it. The dollar getting ever closer to 74 cents US. It dropped more than a third of a cent today. The TSX lost 454 points and the Dow dipped nearly 360 points. Oil's down again tonight, $2.33 a barrel. The value of gold slipped as well. It's down nearly $76 an ounce. Well, a big thank you to everyone who sent in photos and videos of their backyard rinks. Just look at these. We got a ton of entries. Clearly so many awesome rinks around PEI. Unfortunately, we could only choose a few to visit. So here's a sampling of just some of the pictures we got. Jay will be on the road next week, Monday to Thursday. Hopefully the weather holds out for lots of fun on some of the backyard rinks on the island.
Or backyard pools, if it's as warm as some of the forecast models are indicating. I think we'll be okay. But Orwell Corner, Hunter River, I think we're going to be up in Tignish, so we're going up west. And here in Charlottetown, we have one as well. And then it's the home show on Friday, by the way. So, yeah, it's going to be a busy out on location all 5-day kind of week. So
Have you been training? I know sometimes they put you to the test on the ice. You get You competing against some of those kids?
Yeah, no, they're always better than I am. The kids are always better
That's
than
because you
I am.
didn't train.
I didn't train.
You just put in some time, then you never know.
I spend every Saturday and most Sunday mornings at the rink, but I'm with the parents in the stands. So the little one, Abby, is out there.
You're better than me, so
thank you.
That's something.
I appreciate that. That's not really saying much if you haven't seen this guy on skates. All right, let's take a look at your day planner forecast tomorrow. And yeah, we do have some temperatures that at times will be up above the freezing mark for a few days next week. So fingers crossed. That's the first time in my life I think I've ever been really hoping for cold weather. All right, -8 for 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. We're going to look at temperatures to be up near freezing by the noon hour. Clouds will gradually be building through the afternoon. Again, anywhere from +1 to -2 will be the range of daytime highs across the island. And you see those clouds increasing through your Saturday. That's ahead of flurries Saturday night and some steadier snow moving in Saturday overnight into Sunday. And that will continue through Sunday. We could see anywhere from 5 to amounts even over 15 centimeters possible. So still time for change on that. Check my social media feeds tomorrow for an update.
That to close out February into March. We'll see you back here on Monday for the start of March. Have a good one.